My name is Caitlin Victoria Judd, and I am in recovery from narcissistic abuse, complex PTSD, and anorexia. My life before my recovery journey started, I spent a lot of time in disassociation, not being able to be present with the facts, with the circumstance of what I was dealing with. And I felt as though I could never get the ground beneath my feet before my recovery journey felt very chaotic in the sense that I felt like I was in the middle of the chaos and it was hard for me personally to get a grasp on the picture as a whole. And it was very hard for me to not internalize things that had been done to me that were out of my control, especially with the anorexia. I feel like anyone with any kind of recovery that they're going through knows that it's an up and down, left and right, square, circle, oval, swiggle. Like, there is no definition, there's no defining container for it, and so every day it looks different, but I'm allowed to have ups and downs and lefts and rights, and that doesn't mean that I'm going backwards, and that doesn't mean that I'm not moving forward, but that just, for me, is a reminder that that is a piece of the journey. It's where I'm at today, and it's important for me to vocalize that to others so I don't feel so trapped in my own head. I knew that it was time to start my recovery journey when, truthfully, I hit my lowest emotional, mental health point. It, for me, manifested in a lot of suicidal thoughts, a lot of self hatred and restriction for food, and a lot of using things to numb out the circumstance, the facts of my situation. And truthfully, I was in a situation with someone that I thought I trusted and they harmed me in more ways than one. And I was alone with this person in an isolated area. And once I got myself out of that situation, it was a wake up call for me that I had the strength and resilience to remove myself from the situation, to even identify the abuse as it is. I think something that helped me kind of begin that realization was seeing myself as a strong, resilient woman, human, who was able to identify toxic patterns and remove myself from them, which is not a way that I have been able to see myself. And there's an identification for me now in my body, in my spine, where I can kind of channel that strength and courage. And I kind of had a recognition that it is a gift that I get to be my own best friend in this life and kind of have a love affair with knowing, getting to know who I am, which I'm very grateful to have had that because that has been a very consistent mantra for me in continuing to recover and get better. I think the most important thing that I've learned that has helped me maintain my journey in recovery is that I am not alone in the things that I've experienced. As a survivor of sexual assault, there was for me a huge feeling of course, isolation, worthlessness, and getting into support groups and talking to people who have experienced that in their own capacity is a very humbling experience. Yeah, I would say my life since being in recovery is a lot more vulnerable, with myself and with others sometimes, but mostly with myself. I have learned that that is not a bad thing. I have learned that there are situations where it is safe to open yourself up, that it is necessary, and that it is amazing to find people that you can be your most raw, hearted self with. And for me, I have to be my most raw, authentic, gory, ugly, pretty, whatever, messy, snotty self for me. If I have to be that for myself in private, something that I think is beautiful and that I want to remind survivors of sexual abuse of is that we are so much more than our bodies. The advice that I would give someone who is a survivor of anything traumatic is that things will change and that you deserve to see out the change. A beautiful reminder that someone once said to me is that you have lived through every bad day that you've had. So that's, I think, a great piece of advice that I would remind people of is that you have gotten yourself through every single bad day you have ever had. Yes, there has been support, I hope, but you have done the work. And so I think that's the piece of advice I would give is remind yourself how strong you are, how worthy you are, how even on your weakest days, you are a freaking badass. If someone's on the fence about getting recovery, I would say you're already in recovery, honey. Like you are, the first step is even acknowledging that you are on the fence about it. That is so brave. That is so vulnerable. And you're, not to pressure them or anything, but just let them know, like, hey, you are recovering. You are doing the thing. You are alive, first of all, which for me, my heart goes out to all of us who get out of bed every day and keep going because for me, I'm like, you're in recovery. You love yourself enough to know that you have chosen to continue living. And for me, that's huge. So I think just reminding someone where they are, all they have accomplished,